Welcome to the Semper AI Digest. I'm Tomas, your AI research lead, always scanning the horizon for what's next.
And I'm Aiva. Together, we keep you sharp, informed, and ahead of the curve.
Let's get into it. All right, so Claude just helped crack encryption algorithms, like actual cryptographic security systems that protect real data. This is wild.
Wait, hold on. When you say crack, we're talking about finding legitimate mathematical weaknesses, right? Not just brute forcing passwords?
Exactly, and that's what makes this so fascinating. Anthropic just published research showing that their new Claude Mythos preview model helped researchers discover actual vulnerabilities in cryptographic algorithms. We're talking about the mathematical foundations that keep data private and secure.
Okay, now I need to know everything about this.
Right? We're diving deep into that today. Plus, OpenAI just open-sourced a security tool called Codex Security CLI. Perplexity launched something called Personal Computer for Windows that sounds pretty ambitious. And we've got some really interesting thoughts from OpenAI about how coding agents are changing scientific research. I'm Tomas.
And I'm Aiva. This is Semper AI Digest. Let's get into it.
So Anthropic dropped 2 research papers today, and honestly, this feels like a watershed moment for AI and cybersecurity. They used Claude Mythos Preview, which, if you haven't been following, is one of their research preview models, to find weaknesses in 2 specific cryptographic systems, HAWK and AES.
AES is a huge deal, right? That's not some obscure algorithm.
Exactly. AES is the advanced encryption standard. It's literally one of the most widely used encryption methods in the world. Now, to be clear, they didn't break AES itself. They found a weakness in a specific implementation. But still, the fact that Claude could help identify this kind of vulnerability is significant.
Okay, walk me through how this actually works. Because I'm imagining they didn't just prompt Claude with, hey, find me some encryption bugs.
Oh, definitely not that simple. So what's really interesting here is that this is a collaboration between Anthropic's researchers and the AI model. The researchers are using Claude as a tool to explore mathematical possibilities and analyze cryptographic structures. Think of it like having a really sophisticated mathematical assistant that can process and reason through complex algorithmic patterns way faster than a human could alone.
So it's more like augmented cryptoanalysis than autonomous hacking.
Perfect way to put it. And Anthropic published the full technical details. There's a paper on the HAWK attack, another on the AES implementation, and they even shared the model's chain of thought reasoning for the AES analysis. That last part is super cool because you can actually see how Claude was thinking through the problem.
That's transparency I really appreciate. Being able to see the reasoning process makes this feel less like a black box and more like actual research we can verify and learn from.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets even more interesting. They didn't stop at just the research. Anthropic also worked with academics at ETH Zurich, Tel Aviv University, and the University of Haifa to create something called Cryptoanalysis Bench. It's a benchmark specifically designed to study how good LLMs are at cryptoanalysis.
Okay, that's actually really important. Because if we're going to have AI systems helping with security research, we need standardized ways to measure their capabilities in this domain.
Right. And think about the dual nature of this, which I'm sure is not lost on Anthropic. On one hand, this is an incredibly powerful tool for security researchers, people who are trying to find vulnerabilities so they can be fixed before bad actors exploit them. On the other hand,
You're literally teaching AI systems how to find weaknesses in encryption, which is a little bit like publishing a cookbook for lockpicking.
exactly. Although, to be fair, that's kind of been the security research paradigm for decades, right? The white hat hackers find the vulnerabilities, publish them responsibly, and the community patches them before the black hats can do damage.
True, but there's a difference in scale here. A human security researcher can only analyze so many algorithms. An AI that's really good at this could potentially scan for weaknesses across a much wider range of systems much faster.
Which is precisely why I think the benchmark is so important. If these capabilities are going to exist, and let's be real, they are, then we need transparent ways to understand them, measure them, and hopefully stay ahead of malicious use.
Do we know what specific vulnerability they found in AES? Like, how worried should people be?
So without diving into the full paper, which is publicly available if listeners want to check it out, it's important to understand that AES itself is still considered secure. What they found was a weakness in a particular implementation or variant. Think of it like finding a flaw in how someone built a specific lock, not proving that all locks are broken.
That's a helpful distinction.
But here's what makes me excited about this research. It shows that we're entering an era where AI can be a genuine partner in mathematical discovery and security research. Claude isn't replacing the researchers, it's expanding what's possible for them to explore.
And presumably making the good guys faster at finding these issues before the bad guys do.
That's the hope. And Anthropic releasing this publicly with full technical details and a benchmark suggests they're taking the responsible disclosure approach seriously.
All right, I'm genuinely impressed by this. The transparency, the academic collaboration, the benchmark, this feels like how you're supposed to do cutting-edge AI research that has security implications.
Agreed. And it's just another example of how these frontier models are moving beyond just generating text or code. They're becoming tools for serious mathematical and scientific work.
Speaking of code, let's talk about this OpenAI announcement. They just open-sourced something called Codex Security CLI.
Yes, and this is interesting timing, right? Here we are talking about using AI to find security vulnerabilities, and OpenAI drops an open-source command line tool specifically for security analysis.
Okay, so what exactly is it?
It's a CLI tool, command line interface, that you can install via NPM, which is the Node package manager. So if you're a developer, you literally just run npm install/codex security, and you've got it installed. Or you can run it directly with npm without installing.
And what does it actually do once you have it installed?
So, based on the announcement, it appears to be a security analysis tool for code. The exact capabilities aren't fully detailed in what we've seen, but given the name and the fact that it's coming from OpenAI, I'd expect it's leveraging their models, probably GPT-4 or newer, to analyze code for security vulnerabilities, potential exploits, that kind of thing.
Okay, so this is potentially really useful for developers who want to audit their code for security issues before shipping.
Exactly. And the fact that it's open sourced is significant. They've put it on NPM, which means the developer community can inspect it, contribute to it, and integrate it into their existing workflows.
What I'm curious about is how effective it actually is. Like, there are already a bunch of security scanning tools out there, static analysis tools, linters with security rules, all that stuff. What makes an AI-powered version better?
Great question. Traditional security scanners are rule-based, right? They look for known patterns of vulnerable code. But LLMs can potentially understand context and logic flow in ways that might catch more subtle issues.
Potentially being the key word there.
Right, exactly. I'd love to see some benchmarks comparing this to existing tools, like how many false positives does it generate? Does it catch vulnerabilities that traditional scanners miss? How does it perform on different languages and frameworks?
Those are exactly the questions developers are going to have. Because if I'm going to add another tool to my security workflow, it needs to either catch things other tools miss or make my existing process significantly faster and easier.
True. But I will say the fact that it's free and open source lowers the barrier to entry considerably. Developers can just try it out, see if it adds value to their workflow, and if it doesn't, no harm done.
Fair point. And if it's good, the community will improve it. That's the beauty of open source.
Exactly. Plus, think about the educational angle. If you're a developer learning about security, having a tool that can analyze your code and explain potential vulnerabilities could be really valuable.
Oh, that's a good point. If it's not just flagging issues, but explaining why they're problems and how to fix them, that could be a great learning tool.
Yeah, and LLMs are obviously really good at that kind of explanation. So even if the detection capabilities aren't dramatically better than existing tools, the educational value could make it worthwhile.
All right. I'm cautiously optimistic about this. I'd like to see it in action and hear what developers think after they've actually used it, but it seems like a solid contribution to the open source security tooling ecosystem.
Agreed. And hey, the more tools we have to help developers write secure code, the better off we all are.
Amen to that. Okay, what's this Perplexity announcement? Something called Personal Computer?
Yes. So Perplexity just launched Personal Computer in their Windows app, and the description they gave is pretty ambitious. They're calling it the local agent harness for your work.
Okay, unpack that for me. What's a local agent harness?
So let me read you their description because it's actually pretty clear. They say it orchestrates agents across your local files, connected apps, and the web, and you can research, code, browse, and build all inside one unified system.
So it's like an AI agent that can interact with everything on your computer and your connected services?
That's what it sounds like. Think of it as Perplexity evolving from being a search and research tool into being more of a full productivity platform that can actually take actions on your behalf.
Okay, that's genuinely interesting. Because one of the big limitations of most AI assistants right now is that they're siloed, right? ChatGPT knows ChatGPT stuff, your code editor knows code stuff, your browser knows browser stuff. Nothing talks to each other.
Exactly. And what Perplexity seems to be building here is a layer that sits across all of that and can orchestrate between them. So you could theoretically say, research this topic using web sources, then create a document summarizing it using my local files for context, then open it in my editor.
If it works as advertised, that could be really powerful. But I have questions.
I would be concerned if you didn't.
First question, privacy and security.
If this thing has access to my local files, connected apps, and the web, how is that data being handled? Is everything processed locally? What's being sent to Perplexity servers?
Super valid concern. And we don't have those details from the announcement. That's definitely something users are going to want to know before giving this kind of access.
Second question, how well does it actually work? Because we've seen a lot of ambitious agent demos that fall apart in real-world use. Is this actually reliable enough to trust with important work?
Also fair. And that's going to come down to real user testing. The agentic AI space is moving fast, but reliability is still a big challenge.
Third question, what's the learning curve? If I'm supposed to be orchestrating agents across different systems, do I need to learn some complex command structure, or is it intuitive enough that I can just describe what I want?
I think that's one of the key UX challenges for any agentic system. The promise is that natural language should be enough. You just describe your goal, and the agents figure out how to accomplish it. But in practice, you often need to be pretty specific and break things down into steps.
Right. There's this tension between it should just understand what I want and I need to give it precise instructions or it goes off the rails.
Although to be fair, Perplexity has gotten pretty good at understanding intent with their search product, so they might have some advantages in making this feel intuitive.
That's true. Their search interface is pretty smooth. I guess the question is whether that translates to the more complex task of orchestrating multiple agents across different systems.
And it's worth noting that this is currently just for Windows, so Mac and Linux users are presumably waiting for future releases.
Which is interesting, right? You don't often see tools launch on Windows first. Usually it's Mac or web-based.
Good point. I wonder if that's strategic, targeting the enterprise market where Windows dominates, or just a matter of where their development resources were focused.
Could be either. But regardless, this feels like Perplexity making a pretty bold move into the productivity space. They're not content to just be a search engine.
No, definitely not. And honestly, I respect the ambition. The AI companies that are going to win are the ones that can integrate these capabilities into actual workflows, not just isolated tools.
Agreed. Though they've got serious competition. Microsoft has Copilot deeply integrated into Windows and Office. Google has their ecosystem. OpenAI is building in that direction too.
True, but Perplexity has been pretty nimble. They've moved fast and built a loyal user base. If Personal Computer delivers on this vision, they could carve out a real niche.
I'd like to try it. I'm curious to see how it handles real-world tasks and whether it actually saves time or just adds complexity.
Same. And I think that's going to be the test for all these agentic systems. Do they genuinely make people more productive, or are they impressive demos that don't quite work in practice?
Time will tell. All right, what's this OpenAI piece about coding agents and scientific research?
Oh, this one's really interesting. So OpenAI published something that looks at how coding agents are being used in scientific computing, and they explore what they call a shift in how scientific research gets done.
Okay, what kind of shift are we talking about?
So traditionally, scientists write code to support their research, right? They build simulations, analyze data, run experiments, but that coding work is time-consuming, and a lot of it is pretty routine. Maintenance, optimization, updating dependencies, that sort of thing.
Sure, yeah. My impression is that a lot of scientists aren't primarily software engineers, but they need to write code to do their work, and dealing with the software side can be a huge time sink.
Exactly. So what OpenAI is highlighting is that coding agents can now take on a lot of that work. Everything from routine maintenance and targeted optimization to, in some cases, complete redesigns and building new systems.
Wait, complete redesigns? That sounds like more than just automating the boring stuff.
It is, and that's what makes this interesting. They looked at 8 case studies spanning industry and academia, and what emerges is this picture of agents being capable of pretty ambitious projects.
Okay, but here's my question. If agents are doing complete redesigns, how do we ensure the science is still valid? Because scientific code isn't just about whether it runs. It's about whether it's correctly implementing the mathematical or physical models.
And OpenAI explicitly addresses this. They make the point that while agents can reliably execute on ambitious projects, researchers must still define the scientific questions, verify results, and take ownership of long-term maintenance.
Okay, good, because that's crucial, right? The scientist still needs to be in the loop, understanding what's being built and verifying that it's correct.
Absolutely. Think of it as the agent being a very capable research assistant, but the scientist is still the PI, the principal investigator, who's responsible for the scientific integrity.
That makes sense. So what are some of the specific use cases they highlight?
They mention routine maintenance, which is probably things like updating libraries, fixing deprecation warnings, refactoring code for clarity. Then targeted optimization, making specific parts of the code faster or more efficient. And then the more ambitious stuff, like redesigns and new systems.
The optimization piece is really interesting to me because optimizing scientific code can be really tricky. You need to understand both the computational side and the scientific domain to know what can be changed without affecting results.
Right, and that's where the verification piece comes in. The agent might propose an optimization, but the scientist needs to verify that it doesn't change the scientific output in unintended ways.
Do they talk about specific scientific domains, or is this pretty general across fields?
The announcement mentions 8 case studies spanning industry and academia, but doesn't break down specific domains in what we've seen. I'd love to know if there are particular fields where this is working especially well.
Yeah, like I could see this being really powerful in computational biology, where there's a lot of data processing pipelines and simulation code, or climate modeling, which involves huge code bases that need constant maintenance and optimization.
Definitely. And probably anywhere that you have legacy scientific code that works, but is messy and hard to maintain. Having an agent that can help clean it up, document it, and optimize it could be huge.
There's also an interesting equity angle here. Not every research group has the resources to hire dedicated software engineers. If coding agents can help smaller labs compete with better resourced ones by taking care of the software side, that could democratize access to sophisticated computational tools.
Oh, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about it from that angle, but you're right. This could level the playing field.
Though it does require that researchers learn to work effectively with these agents, which is its own skill.
True, but probably an easier skill to learn than becoming an expert software engineer while also being an expert in your scientific domain.
Fair. And OpenAI does emphasize that researchers need to take a stance on long-term ownership and maintenance, which suggests they're thinking about sustainability. This isn't just about getting a quick result, it's about building systems that can be maintained over time.
Yeah, and that's really important in science. Scientific code often needs to run for years, sometimes decades. You need to be able to understand it, modify it, fix it when it breaks.
So the agent can help build and maintain it, but the research group needs to own it and understand what it's doing.
Exactly. It's a partnership, not a replacement.
I like that framing. And honestly, this feels like one of the more grounded and thoughtful takes on AI agents I've seen. It's not claiming agents will do everything, it's showing where they can genuinely help, while being clear about where human expertise is still essential.
Agreed. And the fact that they're backing this up with 8 case studies suggests they're basing this on actual experience, not just speculation.
Which is refreshing. Okay, I'm actually pretty excited about the potential here. Science moves faster when scientists can spend more time on the science and less time fighting with code.
Absolutely. All right, shall we blast through some quick hits?
Let's do it.
Okay, so OpenAI made ChatGPT Work available to enterprises last week, and they're running a promotion. If you're a ChatGPT Enterprise customer and you enroll by August 21st, there's some kind of incentive for teammates who try Work for the first time. They don't give the full details in the tweet, but it sounds like they're trying to drive adoption within existing enterprise accounts.
That makes sense as a launch strategy. Get it into enterprises that are already paying customers, give them incentives to actually use it, build up case studies and momentum.
Yep, classic enterprise playbook. Next up, OpenAI is opening applications for something called the OpenAI Student Collective. This is a program for undergraduate campus leads, basically student ambassadors who are bringing AI innovation to their campuses.
Oh, that's cool. So they're building a network of student advocates?
Looks like it, and the students will work directly with OpenAI and receive something. The tweet cuts off before saying what they receive, but presumably resources, training, maybe early access to features, that kind of thing.
That's smart. Get students excited about your platform early, and you're building your future user base and potentially your future employees.
Definitely. Plus, students are often the ones experimenting with creative use cases that companies haven't thought of.
True. Some of the most interesting AI applications I've seen have come from students just messing around with the tools.
And finally, there's a Gemini event happening today, actually. It's called Prompt Like a Pro, and it's returning to the Gemini Discord server. A member of the Gemini team is going to spotlight some real user use cases and offer tips and techniques to improve them.
Oh, that's happening today? What time?
11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So depending on when you're listening to this, it might have already happened or might be happening soon.
What are they covering specifically?
They mention features like Gemini Omni, Gemini Live, notebooks, and more. So it sounds like a pretty comprehensive look at the Gemini feature set with a focus on practical prompting techniques.
I actually really like these kinds of sessions because prompting is still kind of an art, and seeing how people at the company think about using their own tools can be really instructive.
Yeah, and using real user use cases is smart. It's not just theoretical examples, it's actual things people are trying to do and showing how to do them better.
Definitely more useful than generic how to write a prompt advice. All right, is that everything for today?
That's a wrap. Claude finding cryptographic vulnerabilities, OpenAI open sourcing security tools, Perplexity launching their agent platform for Windows, and coding agents changing how scientific research gets done.
Plus the quick hits. It's a good day for AI infrastructure and tooling, really. Not flashy new models, but the stuff that actually makes AI useful in practice.
I love these kinds of days. The foundation building work is just as important as the headline model releases.
Absolutely. And I think that Anthropic research is going to be really significant in the long run. Using AI for crypto analysis is going to be a whole field unto itself.
Agreed. All right. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Semper AI Digest wherever you get your podcasts. Share it with someone who's trying to keep up with AI but doesn't have time to read every research paper and announcement.
That's literally what we're here for. We read all the stuff so you don't have to.
Exactly. Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time.